Neymar's returning to Barcelona. The interview with the Brazilian father shocked football fans. Amari talked about Rashford's removal from the team. The Englishman is going to Barcelona. Bavaria has set its sights on one of the main stars of the past Euro, and a fierce fight on the football field. We've never seen such a beast before. We're discussing this and more today. Friends, this is Football Dose, and a hot selection of the most interesting news to this hour. Another top 10. Friends, be sure to unload your royal likes so that we continue to work even during the Christmas holidays. And don't forget to subscribe to our Telegram channel. They started to strangle YouTube again. At least we will always be in touch with you there. Well, I wish you a pleasant appetite and a pleasant viewing. In La Liga, they have long been thinking about how to solve the problem of racism in the stands. Now, in case after several episodes of racism from fans, the judges will stop the match. Aver Tebas wants to ensure that the team, whose fans have allowed racist shouts, are penalized. Such an incident has just happened in Brazil. Only the insults came from the River Plate footballers. The famous Argentine club met with Brazilian Grêmio in the semi-finals of the Ladies' Cup, and the match was stopped after Candelaria Diaz from River showed several obscene gestures, not to the opponents but to the ball boy. Diaz reacted to the boy telling the referee which girl broke the rules and should be removed. Candela's partners even ran up to the guy and started pressuring him. Bolboya had to be rescued. He was unharmed but quite scared. A brawl erupted on the field, resulting in the referee issuing 6 red cards to River players. The match ended with a 1-1 score on the scoreboard, but it didn't matter. The referee had to stop the game. There weren't enough players to continue. And of course, the victory was credited to Grêmio. The Women's Cup organizers banned River from the tournament for 2 years, and they also immediately changed the regulations. Now, for any individual display of racism, the ban will be imposed immediately on the entire team. The organization confirms its anti-racist stance and emphasizes that it will never tolerate such incidents. But the suspension was far from the only punishment for the River footballers. Diaz Juanu Cangara, Milagros Naiken Diaz, and Camila Aylen Duarte were detained after the game, as their lawyer Thais Sankari reported. According to Sankari, the girls didn't behave like this on their own. They were provoked. However, Grêmio coach Thais Sanpasos claimed that the River players had been calling her derogatory names before the game. Such incidents cannot continue. The Brazilian team's coach questioned how long we will pretend that racism doesn't exist. River, of course, did not defend his footballers. The club spoke out against racism and promised to take necessary measures. Most likely, the detained will have to look for a new team. The arrival of Ruben Maorima to Manchester United naturally did not solve all the club's problems. But on a lighter note, it's worth mentioning that the Red Devils game has momentarily risen to the level of Manchester City. Without Maurima's merit, admittedly. If compared to the game under Ten Hag, under Amarame, Mew has improved. The team on average makes fewer turnovers, 18 against 22. There are also fewer interceptions, 10 against 11. They've been pressing and forcing turnovers in the opponent's penalty area. The team has been running less, but now allows more often to hit the goal in their gates. On the bright side, United has been scoring more and losing the ball less often in the attack. Amari needs time and management support to solve everything gradually. It would have been nice if they had started small. For example, they fixed the roof in the press conference room, and journalists didn't have to sit and get wet. When asked about the difficulties the team encountered, Amar pointed to the floor and stated, "If I knew how, I would solve all the problems of this club, even this one. I know what I will do, everything is clear to me." I won't say that I'm upset because I'm really upset. The moment is very difficult, but we will solve problems gradually and find answers. In general, Amarim is saying the same thing that Ten Hag said earlier. The atmosphere at the MU is somber, particularly among the staff. Sir Jim Redcliffe is economizing on the workers, and many are being fired and going to other clubs. And someone like the chef Amar Meziane, who the players loved, went to McLaren from Formula One. To save money, Redcliffe even refused the annual corporate Christmas party. According to the data before the England Cup final, Mew told the staff that they would only be provided with tickets for the game against Man City, and the veterans also paid for the accommodation tickets. Bruno Fernandes was shocked by such behavior of the management. The captain even came to the bosses and said that he was ready to finance the classic package for the staff out of his own pocket. But they refused him, fearing a blow to their reputation. So did they manage to avoid the blow? Xabi became the most desired among young trainers. Honestly speaking, it's still hard to believe the story that the Spaniard has set up in Liverpool. Once again, last season, the pharmacists didn't lose 51 matches in a row. No team in the history of football has ever done the same. They became the 8th team in top league history to go undefeated, achieving the highest winning percentage among the unbeaten champions. And they also scored an average of 2 full 6,500 points per match, the 3rd result in the history of the top league. And this is with the 5th budget in the Bundesliga. And Alonso took over the team, I remind you, at the bottom of the table. Xabi brought Bayern their first championship in 20 years. He ended Bayern's 11-year dominance. He won the Cup and the Super Cup. He reached the Europa League final. With the squad he had, Alonso gave more than the maximum, because the maximum turned out to be significantly lower. And after all his wonders, he surprised again. He stayed at Bayern, even though there were offers from Bavaria and Liverpool. Moreover, he can continue to work with pharmacists. Bill says Xabi has a great relationship with the club's management. Leverkusen is very comfortable for my family, and no one will be able to persuade Alonso to leave Bayern in the near future. No one, except for Real Madrid. No alternatives. Even Liverpool and Bavaria have no chance if they suddenly decide to fire Slota and the company. And with Alonso, it's the same legend of the Reds as with the Slivovs. The sole question is if Florentino Perez will dismiss Carlo Ancelotti. Now things have gone downhill for the Madridistas, especially given Barcelona's recent lack of presence in matches. Kylian Mbappe has finally hit his stride and begun contributing. He even managed to earn a penalty for Mbappe's skill at scoring from afar. Apparently, long shots are mainly left for training. Considering the relationship between Perez and Ancelotti, it's hard to understand if the president wants to change the coach even for such a promising Xabi Alonso. But if Xabi himself doesn't plan to go anywhere other than Real and tells Perez about it, then Florentino will understand that he can wait another season, or even another, until Ancelotti either ends his career or faces a crisis he can't get out of. Jurgen Klopp does not plan to return to coaching yet. He hasn't recovered from burnout and is unsure if he will coach again. He suggested he may retire, but is unsure if he'll rediscover his passion. Like Pep Guardiola, Jurgen has an interesting option of working with the national team. There's more stress in the national team, but there's also more time for rest and family. The German Football Federation is also eyeing Klopp. And Jurgen has already said that he would like to work with the Bundesliga again someday. Klopp is offered a contract after the World Cup in North America. Of course, under the condition if Julian Nagelsmann fails or wants to make a comeback in club football. That's quite likely. Yes, coaching the national team is a great honor, but for young and progressive coaches, working in clubs is more appealing, especially to tactical geeks like Nagelsmann. There they can fully express themselves. But for trainers, seasoned with life experience like Klopp, it's better to work in national teams. Some even pursue drastic career changes. Someone goes into business, someone becomes a club ambassador or sports director, but Jurgen decided to head the Red Bull scouting network. Questions immediately arose about the Germans' decision to do so. Mainz and Borussia fans accused Klopp of betrayal, and now Liverpool fans are also unhappy. According to Mail Sport, Jurgen first received an offer from Red Bull more than 2 years ago and immediately agreed. Moreover, he held secret meetings behind the back of Liverpool's management. Some Red fans even put forth the theory that Klopp actually has no and never had any burnout, and he left Liverpool only because he liked Red Bull's offer so much. I don't share that perspective, but, even this version can be believed, considering the last words of Red Bull's head, Oliver Minzlaff. Negotiations with Klopp have been the easiest in the last 20 years. The financial side took 20 seconds, as he immediately stated his readiness to take on the task. In general, it seems that Klopp was really thinking about working at Red Bull, even before leaving Liverpool. Nico Williams remained with Athletic Bilbao this summer. Barcelona didn't even hide the desire to sign him. The reasons for the failed transfer remain unknown. Catalonia claims that Nico is to blame, as if he simply didn't want to leave his home club. His brother Iñaki could have held him back. In his time, the older brother had plenty of opportunities for promotion, but he chose loyalty. But I wouldn't rule out that the Sine-Granitovs simply didn't have enough money for the transfer. Athletic would have asked for a solid amount of money. Williams had a great Euro, but his productivity at Athletic is far from what it was in the summer. Only 4 headers in 17 games. This may be related to the fact that he plays for a fairly modest team, but in that pair of matches, Boskov, that I saw, Nico was clearly a sucker, both in his native position on the left flank and as a forward. However, in the recent games, Williams seems to have started regaining his form, and top clubs started following him again. According to journalist Florian Plettenberg, Bayern Munich has set their sights on Nick. The Reds are preparing to refresh their wings, as Serge Gnabry, Leroy Sane, Kingsley Coman, and Brian Saragossa might leave the team. If Nick turned down Barca due to a preference for Atletico, then Bayern's offer has a better chance, as they are a club from a different league. But in Munich's shortlist, Nick is competing with Jamie Gittens from Borussia Dortmund. Bayern's sports director Max Eberl is thrilled by winger Schmele, and I understand why. One of the brightest players of Borussia this season, and in the past one too. Bayern, of course, is also used to grabbing competitors in the league. And there are more benefits from this. Why not weaken Borussia one more time? I won't be surprised if the Reds sign both Nika and Gittens. After all, the player will almost certainly leave the team. Saragossa also has a high chance. And Sane has not yet extended his contract. Many rumors surround Neymar's future. Recently, the Brazilian has been linked with Inter Miami. I don't believe he will stay at Al Hilal. Firstly, the club should doubt the feasibility of paying the declining player 20 million euros a year, considering his injury history. In 2 years in Saudi Arabia, he spent more time on Counter-Strike and poker than on the football field. Not that the footballer is to blame, but why should the club risk and offer him a contract on the same terms again? Moreover, the team is doing just fine without the Brazilian. And it's better to spend 2 million of payroll on some newcomer from Europe. Take Kamina De Bruyne, for example. His contract is ending and he's not signing a new one. If you need a forward, you could consider Barcelona. Part of the Barcelona management wants to sell Robert Lewandowski right now. If Al Khalifi does agree to extend Neymar's contract, then surely the Brazilian will be offered much more modest terms. And it's not a fact that he will accept them. Unconfirmed Saudi sources write that all rumors about Neymar's likely move to Inter Miami are being spread by the footballer and his father in an attempt to get a better offer from Al Khalifi. Neymar also has an option with Santos. Recently, Ney expressed his madness, responding to Depay's offer to move to Corinthians. Santos is the greatest club in the world. He is above all. He showed the world King Pele and Prince Neymar. I respect Corinthians very much, but Santos must also be respected. This is my favorite team. He can also return to another team beloved by him. The footballer's father has already started working on the transfer to Barcelona. Don't believe it? Appreciate his last words. Moving to Barca was completely his decision. I had offers from Barca and Real in my hands. Real's offer was 3 times higher, but he said no because he wanted to play with these guys. His dream was to play for Barcelona, and Neymar Sr. later revealed the real reasons for his son's transfer to Paris Saint-Germain. He says Neymar didn't leave for money or fear of being overshadowed. No, Neymar simply didn't want to take the place of the main star, as it belonged to Messi, while the leadership of Blaugrana planned to give it to Neymar. And Neymar didn't want to undermine his friend and went to Paris Saint-Germain despite his love for Barca. The footballer's father appears to be seeking an offer from Blaugrana. And considering the club's attitude towards the aging Lewandowski, this is quite possible. Marcus Rashford is likely spending his last season at Old Trafford. The Englishman wants to leave the team, and the management agrees to sell him, as do the fans. All that's left is to find a buyer with money. Recently, Rashford hasn't been playing, partly due to his brilliant interview in which he almost openly talked about a likely transfer. Ruben and Maorima confirmed that it was he who left Marcus without practice. Leaving Rashford behind was my decision. He wants to play and tries, but the decision is solely mine. I act on my own, and this is the only known way to success for me. If I don't do this, I will lose myself. The leadership does not put pressure on Maorima. They let him deal with this issue on his own. The problem is that there are no guarantees that Marcus will manage to slip away in January. And to keep a player on reserve with a weekly salary of £30,000? Mew already tried a similar trick with Sancho. Not used to it, but still. Bald Nariki is against Marcus, moving to Paris Saint-Germain. Rashford himself will refuse the options from Saudi Arabia. In England, there are no takers yet for such a footballer. There is interest from Barcelona, but as we remember, Blaugrana is tight with money. As Tim Tolk writes, the Blue Garnets will offer a deal to United this winter. We give you Ansu Fati and a supplement, and you give us Rashford. Of course, it doesn't smell like a deal of the century here. MU already has Mason Mount, who is out again until March. Why do the Devils need another eternally injured footballer? Of course, they really want to sell Rash, but why take another burden instead of one? And how useful will Marcus be for Barca itself? The Catalans play vertical football. And such an Englishman can open up completely if Xantaflick picks the right keys to him. Rashford dislikes pressing, unlike the German, which is a problem. That's why I'd suggest Barca explore other choices. The source writes that the Blaugranas are also keeping an eye on Huichan Huang and Rafael Leao. In my opinion, Kvara is the best choice. The most team-oriented and stable player out of this trio. Juventus is the best team in the top 5 leagues this season. Turin has had 10 draws in Serie A this season. 12 draws in 23 season matches. What's the matter? First of all, football is to blame, which Thiago Motta started with. As in Bologna, he did not immediately burden the substitutes with his vision of the game. Otherwise, their ears would have swelled and their heads would have spun. A hybrid of positional and relational play, a 2-7-2 scheme. Imagine how bad it would have been for the players after Allegri's coaching work. That's why Motta immediately started using only the positional part of his football, which the players are familiar with. And the attacking options of the game are tied to revolutionary elements, associated with the free change of positions among the players. Plus, Motta lacks winger Galliador, instead of whom Arcelin performed in the balloon. But Gonzalez broke down. In the end, Sao keeps the ball. Villa is not bombing. Add to this the fact that Motta himself is deliberately cautious and afraid to take risks, including due to a series of injuries. Juve suffers more than other top teams in Serie A due to an incomplete squad. First, issues emerged in defense. The club lost 2 center backs at once due to cruciate ligament injuries, including the incredibly important Gleison Bremer. Turin will definitely buy new players this winter. Mercato's Ring writes that the old lady sent Chelsea a request for Axel Disasi. Not a bad choice. A solid defender, but lost his starting spot at Chelsea and mainly plays in the Conference League. And this means that he can be snatched with a significant discount. In addition to him, the source writes about interest in David Gansko from Feyenoord and Antonio Silva from Benfica. According to Turin, they will also try to rent Fikayo Tamari from Milan. Earlier, Rossoneri considered him an extremely useful footballer and would not even discuss a possible transfer. But now they are open to the transfer. Milan will ask for about 30 million. Juve is ready to rent Fikayo with an obligation to buy for 15. The difference is significant for now, but at the negotiations in Saudi Arabia, where Milan and Juventus will play for the Italian Super Cup on the 3rd of January, the sides will try to reach a compromise. While there's a small break in the European Championships, news comes from the Colombian box of Juve, not at all those that Atlético Nacional wanted. Atlético Nacional took the Colombian box to the final against America and the SCAL. Hardly anyone will remember because of the football. Real madness was happening at the stadium. In the first match at home, Atletico won 3-1. In the second, they simply held 0. Seeing where things were going, the home team's fans started to break out onto the field. The police tried to hold them back, but it only infuriated the fans more. The referee had to stop the match. The players had to run to the stands right away. American fans began to attack law enforcement officers using iron rods, boards, and even firework guns. And how did they even get them into the stadium? It reminds me of a dialogue from Gallica about the elasticity of certain parts of the human body. But that's hardly the case here, unless a few fans smuggled the cannon in piece by piece and then assembled it. The stadium has turned into an arena for gladiatorial battles. The injured had to be carried out on stretchers. Over 30 people were injured, including 8 law enforcement officers. According to local media, American fans had planned to disrupt the celebration of Atlético Nacional in advance. The head of Cali Police, Colonel Carlos Avieda, said that prohibited items were brought into the stadium. Fans also attacked the patrols and criminals. What happened looks sad and unacceptable. We propose punishment up to the criminals. What happened looks sad and unacceptable. We offer a reward of up to 30 million pesos to anyone who can provide useful information that will help identify the guilty parties. They will be held accountable. The Colombian Football Federation will likely fully punish America for the behavior of its fans. And Atletico took the title. National was leading by 2 goals at the time the match was stopped. Afterwards, no one wanted to continue playing to avoid a repeat of the tragedy. Of course, National's triumph would have been much more pleasant under different circumstances. But they still managed to pull off a notable victory. The American owner of Milan, Jerry Cardinal, who also had a notable verbal altercation. The American owner of Milan, Jerry Cardinal, who is disliked by most Rossoneri fans, came from a lecture at Harvard Business School to talk about his super secret secrets of success. Cardinal decided to scold Inter. Of course, winning the championship is a very important goal, but you need to maintain balance, win wisely. Last year, Inter took what we want. Cardinal added that for investors focused on increasing the bottom line, we want. Cardinal added that for investors focused on increasing the final value, his task is to make Milan fight for the Scudetto every year, enter the Champions League every year, and pass, and the brand value. Actually, what is he wrong about? What is he mistaken about regarding his and the brand's value? His intentions are clear. Money comes first. And that's correct. For him as a business owner, but the jab at Inter is absolutely uncalled for. Steve and Jan didn't get upset because of Inter. They're not spending more on Redzor than Milan. There's complete order with the financial side there. They're living on very little money. They're the ones winning the titles. Jan burned out due to his side business. The response from Inter's head, Beppe Marat, followed immediately. I didn't want to discuss this before, but I feel I should respond now. His comments crossed all boundaries. They were disrespectful towards the prestige and image of the club. The Cardinal got tangled in his words. Indeed, in recent years, our major shareholders have experienced financial difficulties. However, a few years ago, they sought the support of OK3, and this company now with 46 million euros up to 46 in the past season. From 46 million euros to 46 in the past season. And Inter became the only Milan team with a second star. That is, Inter became the only Milan team with a second star. That is, having won 20 championships. Marotta simply laid out the facts to the Cardinal. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching and for subscribing to the channel. Friends, your likes, your comments, your subscriptions are very important to us. Yesterday, we finally gathered 5,000 thumbs up. Let's try to hit this mark today, so we definitely see each other tomorrow. We will continue to work even during the Christmas holidays. Well, my name is Kirill Cast, and this was your daily dose of football. Peace to your house and your hanga, friends. Subtitles created.